Namaste. Welcome. Let's start with a short consecration, short interiorization. Please close your eyes. Keep your back straight. Relaxation. We bring the awareness in the middle of the chest, a little to the right. Feeling of intimacy. We consecrate to God the spiritual heart, the essential reality of which Shambhala is an archetypal expression. So I consecrate the fruits of this satsang to this divine reality. Keeping the awareness of the heart, maintaining the state of aspiration, longing for union with this sacred, perfect, pure realm. We gently open the eyes. We will continue to speak about Shambhala, to dive into this sacred realm that inspires us. I just remind you some essential aspects we mentioned last time. We spoke about this yantra. We will still have to elaborate more, but this is the yantra we are practicing. Last satsang we also learned the method. You have the method presented, so I hope now you all can practice here. We are practicing every day. This is a map of Shambhala, so the structure of Shambhala as it is represented in and described in the ancient traditional texts, Kala Chakra Tantra. As we mentioned, Shambhala means that which gives love, tranquility, the land held by Shiva. Shambhu is the name of Shiva, and Shambhala, Shambhu, you see so much connection. The source of happiness, Debyung, also in Tibetan language, means that source of happiness. Shambhala is a source of cosmic culture and spirituality, whose representatives have protected and directed in a subtle way humanity over the centuries like a guiding star. I hope we'll have time to present arguments about this and what happened. Basically, for example, the Theosophic Society, everything that all the teachings there were brought as a revelation coming from Shambhala. At least this is how it was presented, and we have many reasons to consider that it was simply like this, big inspiration. Actually, it was through Theosophy that most of the yogic spirituality was known in the West. Also, Shambhala is a center of planetary consciousness, and the words spiritual dynamo, this spiritual power of transformation, is a place much more transparent to the divine will, and is seen as the home for bodhisattvas and perfect archetype for a spiritual sangha. These satsangs can be seen as not just as theoretical information is not the purpose, but rather like as a celestial pilgrimage, because Shambhala is the destination of our soul in such a pilgrimage. And we can see in this way. The legend of Shambhala aspires to elevate souls above mediocrity, selfishness, ignorance, and direct our mind and soul towards eternity, towards beauty, compassion. Also, the legend shines like an immaculate pearl in the sea of troubles. And I hope that more and more Shambhala will not be just a oasis or something very discreet, but through our aspirations will blossom in our souls, will become a radiating sun for us and for humanity. The idea that the bodhisattva is actually a being who can transform, who can help humanity to enter in what the Tibetan Buddhist tradition would name another realm of opportunity. So basically to change the track of our being, to change the destiny. And it's quite obvious when, for example, we start practicing yoga or we dedicate to a spiritual practice, is a shift in our destiny. And this is what Shambhala can bring, and all the message of Shambhala can bring. I'm going to continue to speak about the intro elements. We started with all these aspects, but still I feel that it's a need to bring more clarification. I mentioned a little bit that this is a tantric approach. It's not just a yogic approach in which we are using the energies. And even if in yoga, for example, we speak about openness to cosmic energies, and we are operating with the energies and sublimating energies, still the tantric approach involves something else. I remember a little story which impressed me very much when I read it. It is at the very beginning of a beautiful book the Dasha Mahavidya, the 10 cosmic powers of Shankara Narayanan, a disciple of Aurobindo. At the very beginning of this tantric book, he says this story, a real story, of a Vaidika, of a practitioner, of a Brahmin, practitioner of the ancient ritual Vedic rites, who was very poor. And then, because of this, he wanted to change somehow his destiny. And he went to a tantric to get a mantra for getting rich. So he got the mantra and he started the puja, repeating the mantra. And he was outside of the house and he saw an old lady, a beggar, coming near him. This was quite common, so he was not disturbed. He continued to repeat the mantra, to make the japa, repetition with the mantra. And then the woman stopped in front of him, took a bundle of rags in which she had some coins, and throw all those money, all those coins at his legs. He was very surprised by that and asked, what is happening? Why are you doing this? Well, this is what you were asking for since 2 hours. This story impressed him, and he made a commitment that he will never use such a mantra or operate in such a way. So this story tells us that such operations are possible. So we enter in a realm when there is a help of some subtle beings. It's not about just neutral energies. And this is very much Tantra, what Tantra is about. Now, as Sri Kapali Shastriyar, a great spiritual master, would say, there are different levels of deities or entities, and in the subtle realms are Ucha Devatas, so superior entities, deities, and Shambhala is definitely in connection or expression of those. And there are Kshudra deities, those lower rank deities, who, or not even deities, entities, who would make a kind of pact with a person, and then they will be able to give some reward or some little things in order to use this person as a medium for some selfish purposes. Always such entities are selfish and wanting to manipulate, and then usually it's such a adept will experience a kind of joy or satisfaction in getting some power, but then he will be betrayed by such an entity, and anyhow will be lost in such attachments. On the other hand, these superior deities can support us. And I'm going to give you an example about this, an example that is very much connected to Shambhala. Shambhala is such a spiritual realm, and connecting with Shambhala by definition means to drop our personal selfish intentions, to drop all this, because it's not about me getting something. It's rather about learning how to surrender in order to help others. So this motivation, and I mentioned last time, the purity of our intention is essential there. It's a longing for this aspiration for helping others, for supporting any human being. It's somehow natural, or it will come natural, because when we come to that depth of our being, there will be no separation. We will see that. I mean, it will be experiential. That is not about me. It's not about a spiritual advantage. That depth brings equally a sense of compassion and love. It's that domain which is a domain of love. And an example of this connection with higher reality is also in Buddhism, in what is named Pure Land Buddhism. Now, it is quite renowned, this Pure Land Buddhism in Japan, but it started in 402 when a Buddhist monk, Hui Yuan, together with 123 disciples or adepts, so under his guidance, they were monks and lay people as well. They made a commitment to Amitabha, to trust and to commit that they will be reborn in that paradise, in that pure land of Amitabha. He founded the White Lotus Society, and he is considered the first patriarch, the founder of this Pure Land school of Buddhism. In the Pure Land school of Buddhism, the main practice is the devotion and faith towards Amitabha, and this aspiration to be in connection with Amitabha in Sukhavati, which is the pure land or the western land or the western paradise of Amitabha. The main practice is simply the Nembutsu. Maybe you heard Namo Amida Butsu or Om Namo Amida Butsu, which means in Japan veneration, in Japanese veneration to Buddha Amitabha. And it was simply a commitment to repeat this with faith. It is said that Amitabha, will not go now into the legend of Amitabha, but he made a commitment to save and to help all human beings who would come with faith and devotion to him, to be reborn in this pure land, from where the realization is very simple. So to support every human being who would want to connect with him in that pure land, being in that pure land. So just turning in faith to him. Therefore, here the karma doesn't really matter. So it's not about how good karma we have or not, but the help, the support of Amitabha and of the deities or the entities, Avalokiteshvara, for example, which is the very expression of compassion, Bodhisattva. Avalokiteshvara is an assistant of Buddha Amitabha. He's a celestial Buddha. So it's just an emanation of this spirit of Buddhism, or of this Buddha consciousness, we can say, of this pure awareness. So this monk, Hui Yuan, simply advocated the idea that in that time, like in our time, it's a kind of decline of spirituality, and then the mental power, this joriki or mental strength in spiritual practice wouldn't be enough. Therefore, he spoke about this, what he named the easy way. the easy way, simply devotion to Amitabha. Trusting completely in Amitabha. This became the easy way as opposed to hard way, just a way of doing by yourself, trying just by yourself. And then there was also the visualization of Buddha Amitabha and of all the deities associated with it. Why is the West paradise? Well, last time I mentioned about the Dhyani Buddhas, which are all expressions of the same Buddha consciousness. And in any yantra, as you see, we have the position of the directions different from what we know in the West. Always the entrance is from east, from down. Down is the east. So where usually in our geography would be the south, for a yantra is the east. This is always the rule in Tantra. It is because when you access a yantra or a mandala, you are going from the east exactly as the sun is rising, and then you go exactly as the sun will go. And these Buddhas, all these Buddhas are actually, as I said, expressions of the same reality. These meditation Buddhas, or they are connected with the heart. And Buddha Amitabha is the one which stays in the west, or in what we will name the north part, and is the western paradise of Buddha Amitabha, is the most renowned such realm. And such other expressions, 9 Amitayus, other expressions of Buddha Amitabha can be found. So 1 in the middle and 8 around. Again, 8, as we will see in Shambhala, also in the Kingdom of Shambhala representation very much. And Avalokiteshvara, which has 1,000 hands so that he can support. Each of them has an eye, symbol of clear vision and awareness, and also 11 heads. Simply out of compassion, the legend said that his head was broken out of compassion, seeing the suffering in the world, and then Buddha Amitabha replaced and put all these heads. And then the countless hands ready to help any sentient being. So Sukhavati, Sukha means pleasure or joy or refined pleasure. The land of Amitabha is a land which is evoked through these conditions, external and inner. The external conditions are recitation and visualization. The faith and total devotion are the inner conditions. In order to be efficient, both external and inner conditions needs to be approached, but still is considered the easy path. Again, is a trust in such entities. Since Amitabha, Buddha Amitabha promised that out of compassion, is compassion existing? Yes. Is such a bodhisattva ready to help? Yes. If that is the case, then I simply ask for help. It's a very logical way, and then it's total trust, and then a constant practice in this way, which consists in the recitations of the prayers of Buddha Amitabha. This will bring the mind under control, usually a very large number of recitations. This will bring visions of Amitabha and all the family, because it's a spiritual family, ready to help with different functions there. Then can bring forth knowledge concerning the time of death. And this repetition is the predominant element. But then visualization of Amitabha and this pure land. And then in the supreme stage, the contemplation of Buddha as not separate with our own being. This is the rule in all such tantric approaches. The identity with that reality is not a duality anymore. We may start with that, but in the end, everything is just a reality of our being. We bring in this reality of our being. So the supreme confirmation that that practice is efficient would be a vision of Buddha Amitabha, or visions of Buddha Amitabha, and this is seen as a guarantee of being reborn in his pure land. This is appearing in this pure land Buddhism, but it's appearing in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition as well. For example, in Pova, in the teachings about Pova, this visualization of the Sukhavati, of this land of Amitabha, are given. Ayang Rinpoche, a great master, the greatest master of this Pova technique, transfer of consciousness, would give these initiations always with visualizations. And he, for example, gave such examples of for a woman a Tibetan woman who had a car accident, and she had, in that kind of shock, the vision of Buddha Amitabha. And then she was saved. It was like a miracle, but it was what appeared to her spontaneously was Buddha Amitabha, the vision of Buddha Amitabha. And these are, ways of confirmation. I mentioned all this just to show what openness to a pure land would be, and the same is with Shambhala. Nevertheless, such lands are not the final stage. They are just places where our spiritual practice is highly supported. We are not identified with the body, with the ego, and so on, but it's just an expansion of consciousness, and this definitely helps tremendously. It's like when somebody is in a pure land like this, a retrogression is no longer possible. So we cannot come into samsara and get attached to different things. Simply because of this, we are held in compassion by this great spiritual realities. We refer to Shambhala and the pure land of Amitabha, of Buddha Amitabha, but ultimately is the same principle. René Guénon speaks about this pure land as an archetype of this perfection of our soul. And he mentioned the Islamic denomination of the Brothers of Purity as an example, or the Brothers of Brethren of Sincerity. Ikhwan es-Safa was a secret society which was founded in the 9th century and 9th or 10th century. Very few things are known about this society. Still, fundamentally spiritual teaching, some encyclopedia, so different domains of teachings, but of course founded in a spiritual way. Also, the Sufi etymology, maybe many of you know, comes from Suf, which means wool, because they were wearing clothes of wool, but also another way of tracing this word Sufism would be from Safa, which means purity. So again, pure, the pure one. And there is a beautiful definition. The Sufi is one who wears wool on top of purity, playing with these two meanings of the word Sufi. Also, the Catars in Europe, the Christians who were dedicated to spirituality in, I would say, in a more direct, pure, authentic way, kind of opposition to the indulgence in just bourgeois life of the classical religious approach. The Catars uh, the word Qatar means also pure, and sometimes they are named Albigenians from the city Albi. They were staying near the city Albi in France, Albi, which in some languages, like in Romania, Alb means white. So the same whiteness. Also, Plato in Phaedo speaks about a pure land, abode of the blessed. Actually, he just gives the words of Socrates. And if you, I have prepared, I can share with you that part of the Phaedo dialogue. And you'll see there that Socrates has a vision of the earth, even from an astral world, an astral perception, and speak about this world, and even refers to the world as being round in that time. It's fascinating, this. Here it's a representation of these brothers of purity in the Islamic tradition. Also, Dante in his books, definitely we see it as a work of literature, but that is a work of inspiration, of divine inspiration. So he was definitely open, as Socrates was open and communicating with what he named the daimon of Socrates, as Ramakrishna was inspired by Kali. And when Dante comes to the summit of the Mount Purgatory, so before entering in just the fire of the divine perfection, Virgil is making a description which can point to Shambhala, to this condition in Kala Chakra. They describe the people who are living there in this way. Here, your will is upright, filled, free, and whole. And you would be in error not to heed, not to follow it. Whatever your own impulse prompts you to, Lord of yourself, I crown and meter you. So that freedom that comes. Now, still, it would be good to clarify the difference between pure land and paradise. Of course, metaphorically, we can say that all these are paradises, and we may find this affirmation, all these are like paradise. But there is still a difference, because a pure land expresses a condition of consciousness, stabilized condition of consciousness, while a paradise, at least in the Buddhist terminology, is just one realm in this cycle of samsara. They speak about Bhava Chakra, and this means the wheel of becoming. And there are 6 realms in which sentient beings can be. The realm of gods, of demonic beings, of human beings, animals, hungry ghosts, hell beings. Each of them are dominated by one main emotion, low emotion, no? Moved by one. Gods, they have indeed a paradise. They live in a very good karma, but still they have pride. demonic beings are fighting gods all the time. These asuras, they have jealousy. They want that condition, and they would, be in jealousy. Human beings dominated by desires and lust, and so on. What the many Tibetan masters are saying is that these are just metaphorical expressions of conditions of ours. It's not about just some imaginary lands, or they correspond. Whenever we have a bourgeois life, it's like we are living in a God realm, like in a kind of paradise. But the point is that such will, this is a representation of Bhava Chakra, is just flowing, and whenever the karma is consumed, that karma, good karma which we had in that paradise is consumed, there are even some signs which sometimes are put in the legends. They would say that when the time of death is close, the perspiration of this being starts smelling. So the clothes which till then were very pure, this points to that condition of a yogi, that samarasa, body full of light and a body purified. Signs of yogis, or some signs of practicing successfully pranayama, would be that the perspiration is not smelling anymore. And in this paradise kind of land, still the body starts smelling, and then this is a sign that the death is close, and then he will experience the whole problems related to death, and then going again through this wheel of transformation, in the middle of which the axis is done by three energies represented by a pig, ignorance, snake, resentment, and rooster, attachment. So like, dislike, attachment, and rejections, raga, dvesha, and avidya, ignorance. These are the forces that move this Bhava Chakra. A pure land is a land in which you already go beyond this, as here we see Buddha pointing sometimes to the moon, like the finger that points to the moon, or to a deity that brings salvation. So this is the difference between just practicing with our forces and invoking divine reality, trusting in it, and her, or in such a realm, and dedicating our life to such a journey. Because we realize that it's not just about the karma and the good karma or bad karma. The most important aspect is the wisdom. And wisdom is the capacity to witness all the limitations. Going further, about Shambhala. Shambhala is a domain in which any uplifting movement is supported beyond any dogma. So it helps us to go deeper. Ultimately, we go beyond even a pure land. The purpose of our journey is this supreme self-revelation, is the consciousness of oneness. It's not about reaching a realm, no matter how pure or elevated it would be. But there are means to supporting this journey: mental purification, the purification of the soul, and so on. And living in, or keeping the awareness to such a realm, and living in intimacy with Shambhala makes everything much easier. We are supported. Sometimes we feel how important it is to be supported by a sangha, by a spiritual community. The support of Shambhala is even more profound. Even more profound. This aspiration towards light is the very expression of the non-dual spanda, and it, as we will see, it's the very core of Shambhala. The Shambhala inspiration maintains our hope and trust and can give bhakti, a sense of devotion, of openness towards an archetypal purity, compassion, and love, even for those who are not religious. So it is a devotion to that aspiration to be supported, inspired, and to also help sentient beings. That's why it's not a limitation related to a religion or another. It's a vaster perspective of life, of yourself, of how you can relate to the cosmos as a whole. There are therefore teachings of this kind of relationship based on empathy, kindness, love, humbleness, joy, freedom, ego, transparency. So a trust in all this and a love which we have for each other, and to stabilize a new model of relationship. Exactly as sometimes related to the civilizations on Earth, we can refer to the times of Renaissance or the time of Plato's Academy, these special, unique times in the history of humanity when the soul could really blossom beyond any dogma or limitation. The message of Shambhala can offer this mutual respect, a way of honoring and loving each other, the capacity to witness, to go beyond dogmas. And it is our aspiration in Hridaya to have this model and to bring this model in our Sangha, in our group. It's a kind of funny thing that happened in the first satsang. At the very beginning, you observe we started a little bit late. It was because in the preparation, somebody wanting to help introduced the password, because the keyboard is German or whatever in that computer, introduced 3 times the wrong password. So they saw few minutes before we enter that nobody can be invited anymore. No. So, and you need to stay for half an hour in order to again have the possibility to invite everybody. So, and they started doing what could have done, and quite soon, in 10 minutes or so, it was resolved with the help of Mazunte and everything. But what is remarkable is that this happened. No, we may thought, well, maybe there are problems with the connection and so on, but no, it was just impossible to enter anymore. It appeared like this, and you were here, at least those who were here in the hall in France, and you saw no drama, no agitation, no blaming whose fault is there. Calming, witnessing, and acting in an efficient way. This is, I would say, a beautiful example. No, when you have this kind of pressure still to be able to act, then it's not just about pretending or wanting. That shows something, and there are good signs in this, and there should be an aspiration to grow in this. Therefore, please do not let this wisdom remain in your soul merely as a nice legend, an interesting story to chat about it, at the tea. I wouldn't say a coffee. Yes. Also, it shouldn't be restricted to purely scholarly approach, research, just with endless suppositions, speculations, theories, or ways of manipulating this in our personal interest. Again, this is also something that can happen a lot when it's just about, referring to subtle realms. For this tradition to be kept alive, it must be taken to the heart and its principles put into practice. So this is an essential condition. Otherwise, it's simply not possible. The real message is one of wisdom and compassion that radiates from the heart. It is this profound realization that reveals our true nature and ultimately unlocks our infinite capacity for peace and harmony. We will not go just in shallow expressions about mysteries related to Shambhala. We'll see the mystery just as an openness to the sacredness. We will continue to explore some practical elements as well. And through this, a vaster perspective of life will come. In the teachings of Kala Chakra, which are rooted in the wisdom of Shambhala, the science and the spirituality are not opposed, as it tends to be in our times with religious truths. There, the access in the world of Shambhala is, on the contrary, shows a constant aspiration towards science, but a science not without consciousness, that it happens so often in our times, but a science with consciousness. No, science in that spirit of divine openness, and that would support our spiritual journey. So I will conclude this introduction with some blessings. May that through these teachings and insights about Shambhala, many human beings find their path to the spiritual heart, the core of the universe and of human beings. May we understand that the inner individual work, or whatever we will name it, must be seen within a broader, more universal view. May this approach open our individual consciousness to the fact that we are members of a great cosmic family, the Kula, as it is named in the Tantric tradition, a universal brotherhood with the whole creation. May the longing for the grace and harmony of Shambhala start to blossom within the hearts of each and every being on this planet. May we all be inspired by bodhisattvas and authentic spiritual masters. I'm going to make some personal confessions about this. I realized that it was 40 years ago that I started meditating on Shambhala. This 40 has a special connotation in Christianity, in Islam, many traditions. And I started practice in 1982. I don't really remember the first moment. It was not any moment I remember like a fascination of the first thing of yantra or of listening about Shambhala, but the love came slowly, I feel also related to some events that happened. In general, like I approached yoga, not necessarily. I mean, I didn't know that it was a spiritual. It was a lot of wonderment and aspiration for love, but yoga for me was more about developing a strong Anya chakra to be able to be the best in the school and things like this, in the university and so on. And indeed, I started like this, trying to memorize the whole courses, and this was the first kind of achievements that appeared. But then much more happened, and with that, then I realized what's the point of going to the school if I can remember all that. So then I dedicate much more to yoga and to the practice. And then there were some dreams. One dream was peculiar about Shambhala, with overwhelming bliss, and there were people moving like it was an island, and some boats, and from those boats many people were just in that. There is bliss, there is there is happiness, there is real happiness, there is real happiness. It's a little bit hard to translate. It is it was in Romanian. It sounded very very natural, in that there is a real happiness, there is real happiness, there is real happiness. And if we look at the very definition of Shambhala, this source of bliss, of happiness, is very much about this. And that had a huge impact upon me. There was a calling. I remember reading or hearing about Satya, about truthfulness. I was so happy. I said, "Oh, it's perfect from now on with the people, at least with the people in the community, the people who are all dedicated to yoga, Satya, truthfulness. Then it will be, will not have any reason to hide anything. It will be just. It's so beautiful to just be sincere and honest, totally honest, all of us. It's so simple. Realize that it's not so simple, but anyhow, that ideal was there and continues to be there, and I trust that it's possible. No, I trust that it's possible. I trust that this depth of honesty and truthfulness can go deeper and deeper. This as an expression of freedom, ultimately. Then I started meditating on Shambhala. I fell in love with Shambhala. I put the yantra above, on the ceiling above my bed, and I will look at it. I strongly recommend to do this. I strongly recommend to do this, because it's not only when you look at it, then it's like a protection. It's like light. You feel light. The light is like the gate that is opening, especially through practice. It's like a window, a portal that is opening, and you may start having inspiration and dreams of Shambhala. Also, fasting for this was also the fasting was for me started related to with Shambhala. Then after revolution in Romania in 1992, I started giving satsangs about Shambhala. Then a book was written, but many insights and like communications. And I received a message to go in a cave. It was in the communist times. You couldn't go in a cave because the police would come and ask, "What are you doing here?" Or this would be weird thing. So it was something very new for us. And I went there in a cave, which I didn't know. I knew that it was a big cave, but then near it, it must be a cave. So I went there for 3 days, and this was the first time when I went in a cave. So this is how the retreat started and everything. And I was prepared to go in on the river down to take water, but it was less than half an hour after I arrived. It was a place which you would go in a crouching, and then a big hall would open there, and I meditated there. After less than half an hour, two people came. There was a priest and somebody else, and the priest showed to the other about healing water that is a healing spring that is at the bottom of that cave. I didn't know that it's a spring there. I didn't know that it's water, but it was a very good information because in this way it could remain all the time in the cave. And after that, nobody came for 3 days and nights. Nobody came. Nobody disturbed me there. I took it all that time, as a beautiful support and help. It is only now, by reading again about Shambhala, I realized that in the descriptions, they speak about hidden valleys with healing rivers, with rivers having healing waters. And it was just a pointing, somebody pointed, those two people just telling me somehow that is a healing water. I didn't take it as a healing water, but after so many years, it came even that as a recognition. I mention this just as a way to show you how your life can be seen in this way. So you may start looking back, and you may find some moments in which there was a kind of support, moments of perfect beauty, or moments when somebody helped you and inspired you, not necessarily in a huge spiritual way, but all those evocations. This is what in spirituality we name pratyabhijna, or a recognition. It's like a recognition which you find, and it's such a joy when you connect, and then suddenly a deeper meaning comes. I thought it was just about water, but on a deeper level was about pointing something even more. And then those people were not just simple people. I can see them as people who pointed to that and supported in that journey. And in those days, I was just meditating there. It was completely dark. And then I started perceiving at the level of Sahasrara, like a well, and seeing somewhere above. It was like I was in the bottom of that well, at the bottom of that well, and then seeing some beings looking at me. It's like you see from down, and you see, like seeing with Sahasrara, seeing beings looking at and then more and more this image became clear, more and more. And then a sense of being transported there, arriving there. It was a vast space. There were some gates, and then entering, and then many beautiful revelations. It was mostly a sense of sacredness, peace, and tremendous compassion. After a while, I came back, and then I felt the need to write. So after a while, I went out to write in my journal, and I wrote what was there. Then I came back. When I came back again, I was taken in that way and said, you forgot this and this and that. So I was like, it was just because I forgot some things, and I was reminded exactly those things which I didn't write or I didn't remember in that time. So this is how these visions happened. Later on, I started workshops on initiative techniques and parapsychology, like 7-day workshops, and I had 7 such workshops of 7 days, based on such inspirations, and even a method of going together, like going together in such a realm in which we 200 people, or we would go in such a projection, astral projection. It was a method. Maybe we will, if things would unfold in a way, maybe this will come. This was for many the crucial, the most beautiful part of those workshops. But in them, I was giving teachings which now, for example, I'm giving the teacher training course about phosphenes, about Advaita Taraka Upanishad, the yoga of the inner fire, many such aspects related to light and the connection with subtle worlds happened. Through Sahasrara, so apart from the openness of the heart and feeling the yantra in the heart, through Sahasrara, a lot of such perceptions were happening. And then I realized that in Yoga Sutra of Patanjali, there is in chapter 3, the chapter about paranormal powers, is exactly about how you can access such beings. In Yoga Sutra, in chapter 333, Vibhuti Pada, about the paranormal powers, through the practice of samyama, so identification, upon the light in the head, so in Sahasrara, or light in Sahasrara, the yogi acquires the vision of the spiritual masters, of siddhas. So opening to the light in Sahasrara, a connection with Shambhala is possible. Is even Patanjali said this, or the next sutra, or through a flash of illumination, pratibha, or yes, pratibha is just a flash of light. The yogi acquires knowledge about everything. And then the next sutra is through the practice of samyama, of identification with the heart, the yogi gains understanding of the mind of him and of others, Vyasa made commentaries. But this is very also quite interesting, because, and can be understood if we refer to the teachings of Ramana. Yes, the heart is the source, is here the consciousness appears, and then from here that Amrita Nadi or Atma Nadi goes in the head, supporting all the activity of consciousness. So if you want to know the activity of consciousness, go to the source, and the source is the heart. Now, what this revelation of Shambhala is bringing from a practical point of view, an expansion of consciousness. And of course, we may say, well, in the end, I go in the heart, I don't need anything else. It's true. But for example, even when we do this practice of compassion and sending blessings in the end of meditations, in our centers, In the morning, we send blessings, compassion, love to Mexico or to France, and then to the whole cosmos. The connection with Shambhala gives an expansion of consciousness in which the blessing is not done through me anymore, but through a wider consciousness. It's the Shambhala, it's the Pure Land is acting. It's not a personal being. So you are not a personal being anymore. You are this realm of Shambhala. And then you radi it. No, usually we say it's God working, or I evoke the divine power through me to send a blessing. Still, in this sending of blessings, still a kind of, dualistic, me sending blessings to others. Well, even that is not personal and is not through me, but it's the consciousness of Shambhala, is not a personal consciousness. And then the meditation itself, you go and meditate, is not like staying here in the yoga hall, but is like we are evoking together this realm of Shambhala, this realm of purity, of love, and we are together. It's like a coherence. We are entering to this different track, and then from there, everything transforms. So these are these realms of opportunities, as the Tibetan tradition would speak about, and it can be so efficient. So in this, we learn new means of knowledge, which are actually not impossible or illogical, or in the Shaivist tradition, they speak about bhavana. And bhavana means a supramental imagination, or comes from existence. And Abhinavagupta gives a very beautiful definition. Bhavana is that contemplation by which a thing which, though real and existent, appeared as non-existent and unreal previously, owing to obscurity, reappears as manifest reality by sheer clarity. So this is transfiguration. You think that your lover is just a person, but when you are able to see your lover as a goddess, that is the real vision. That is bhavana, that natural vision in which something, a thing, though real and existing, the fact that that is a deity there, a goddess, appeared as non-existent and unreal because of our ignorance, and then reappears as manifest. This would be bhavana, this impetus, which is rooted in spanda, which is rooted in this radiance of the heart. So it's an inspiration that comes from the heart. It's like a creative power that comes. Anyhow, we are doing, and the Oriental tradition says that we are creating constantly with our mentality, with our ideas, this identification with this body-mind. We see each other as body-minds, and we treat each other as objects, and this would simply identify this visualization is the way in which we are operating. And then bhavana would bring another way of seeing, which will shift the whole karma. So there was, after all these times of beautiful experiences with Shambhala, it was a shift that happened in one of retreats when deep absorption in the heart and following the method of self-inquiry, deep realization came, which was there, which made me to long for that transcendent without any form. Then I dropped everything like this. It was so hard for me to teach yoga and to speak about, and whatever would be, even about deities, about Kali, or it was only through this reference to the self, to Atman, to the Supreme Self, to the spiritual heart. It was so a kind of conflict that I saw or inside between this non-duality and this manifestation with forms and Shambhala and these paranormal powers. The reason for which I ceased to give these teachings and to refer to Shambhala and to speaking Hridaya about this was there are many reasons. One of them is that can create a lot of imagination. In La Svatistana, everybody now wants to be and to meet the king of the world, and this can degenerate, just because it's this ego and wanting to show. That's why the purity of intention and this, I shared this just for an inspiration, but we try to keep this intimacy of our revelations. Another reason was indeed this fact that according to the Advaita Vedanta, any manifestation would be still form and somehow limited to that perfection of the spirit. But then I realized that the teachings of Bhavana and many other, we will speak about this, refer to another way of emanating from that perfection of the heart. So it's not just about a visualization or mind and thoughts, but about a pure creation. So then the yogi radiates and transforms even the physical body, and that transformation is like bringing even in the physical body or bringing even in the world that realization. So it's a journey from that intimacy of the realization and from that transcendental touch to an embrace in the whole world. And in connection with this are also the Todgal practices in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, which are manifestations direct from the heart, from that pure awareness, and the condition for them is the purification of the mind. We will see that also in Kala Chakra and in all these visualizations and evocations, we need to have a pure mind and purity of intention. And only from there, the visions or manifestations are appearing. Here, you may see it's a radiance, it's radiating from the heart. All the vision radiates from the heart of the yogi. So this radiance is essential, and then this journey starts with an understanding, as above, so below. Whenever we are speaking about Shambhala, we are speaking about ways of recognizing our ultimate reality and expressions of this. That's why the teachings of Kala Chakra are happening on different levels, and Shambhala is also the kingdom of our heart. We have here a representation of Robert Flood, esoterist and alchemist, who speaks about, and a mystic, who speaks about the connection between the human being and the cosmos, this oneness, which will be seen not just as a resonance, just that me I can communicate with some energies in the cosmos, but this I am Shiva echoing, or this divine reality echoing in everything, in that sacredness of being. No. Then, as Chokye Trinke Rinpoche said, your body becomes Shambhala. If you can use your body properly, then the body becomes Shambhala. The 96 principalities concur in all their actions, and you conquer the kingdom itself. Conquering the kingdom is accessing the heart. And all these 96 basically energy nadis are pointing or are related with the heart chakra, as we will see, because the Shambhala can be seen as a very expression of the spiritual heart. But remember that your body becomes Shambhala. Also, Jamspal Lama said, Shambhala is here too, for there is nowhere where Rudra Chakrin, the king of Shambhala, is not. And where he is Shambhala. So recognizing this sacredness and this essence, which again at the archetypal level, the king of Shambhala is this radiance of I, of this pure I. In this process, we go beyond time and space, and then in this here, present moment, the sacredness of Shambhala manifests. But Shambhala is equally present in the physical level, is, according to the Tibetan Buddhism, the only pure land. So I mentioned the pure land of Amitabha. There are some pure lands like this. This Amitabha Sukhavati is the most renowned pure land and the one which people are praying to access. But there are other such pure lands. But Shambhala is considered the only pure land that has a projection on the earth as well. So because of this, is much more rooted and is much more easily accessible, even though it's about a higher reality. Usually, and you remember I mentioned about Upa and or Ucha and Kshudra Devatas, the lower Devatas or entities can be accessed much easier. But here, with Shambhala, we can access, even if it's about high level consciousness, still quite easily, because it's also related to the physical realm. In the book The Way to Shambhala, Eric Birnbaum is an American who in the 60s started, he was very much inspired by Shambhala, and he started to some projects of saving the books of Tibetan books, and he brought many Tibetan books in United States. And of course, in this way, he met many lamas, many abbots. He met Dalai Lama. So, and he started developing this project related to book, The Way to Shambhala. And for example, he said, shortly after I had an audience with the Dalai Lama, another High Lama, the Sakya Trinzin, asked me what he said about Shambhala, and he remarked, I was having tea with His Holiness not long ago, and he asked me where I thought Shambhala was. Nevertheless, when he asked Dalai Lama, the Dalai Lama, and suggested that it might be only an imaginary or immaterial land or paradise of the mind, Dalai Lama immediately replied, "No, definitely not. Shambhala has a material existence in this world." Now, this material existence can still be protected with what the Madame Blavatsky in the Theosophy, they will say, an Akashic veil. No? It is not necessarily perceived by GPS and so on. So, according to the text, this kingdom provides the conditions under which one can make the fastest possible progress towards enlightenment. Whoever reaches Shambhala or is reborn, they can never fall back to a lower state of existence and will either attain nirvana or supreme realization in that lifetime or very short after that. Now, about the journey to Shambhala. There are many such legends about journeys. I just gave you one personal sharing, but there are many such journeys which have definitely a moral story behind, suggesting that a purity of intention and of the mind is needed. Some spiritual tests are needed. For example, there is a popular legend in which two Tibetans wish to go to the Kingdom of Shambhala and asked Panchen Lama. Panchen Lama is in the hierarchy of the Tibetan lamas, the second after Dalai Lama. He is also Tulku, a bodhisattva, a divine incarnation. And Panchen Lama is the abbot of traditionally of a very special monastery. And Panchen Lama is the one who would give the permit to access Shambhala. So it's like a confirmation and approval to access Shambhala. And these two men went to Panchen Lama. Panchen Lama gave them a permission and help. Raising his arm, he showed them a vision of Shambhala under his armpit and gave them directions and blessings for the journey. These visions under armpit are something that appear in many legends, and we find also in Vijnana Bhairava Tantra in Sutra 79 a meditation in which we focus on the armpit, rising the hands up. We just focus on the armpit or the void that is there and meditate on the void and absorb, experiencing a deep peace in this way. Also, there is a favorite position of Shiva, Shiva Ardha Kunchita, in which the stimulation of the armpits is done, and it is considered one of the favorite positions of Shiva. So this gesture was for showing, Panchen Lama showed them this vision. Then these men went, and after many challenges on the road, they met a group of nomads who offered them gifts and money and even gold. One of them refused them. He said that, no, these are worldly goods, I don't need this. The other said, well, we may need this. Why not? You know, so he took them, but the gold became such a burden that ultimately he got stuck, and then only the one without the gold would go and reach Shambhala. So as a interpretation, of course, it's quite obvious. The basic choices matter, and it refers also to physical attachments. So the attachments to just, physical aspects, learning to travel light in general in life, at the physical level, but also at the psychological level, to learn to drop all those burdens which may seem gold, things we carry, we like, so many attachments, which in the end are just limitations and create problems, barriers in our journey. So these are the conditions of initiation in general. Initio in Latin means to come to the origin. So to come to that original purity and to drop any kind of attachment to anything, like being reborn. Actually, as you'll see, the very message of Kala Chakra initiation is this: you become completely reborn. And it's just a way in which your being is not anymore a being of flesh and of that personality, but a being of light. You become a deity. Another story, a little bit more radical, it's the story of another two friends who wanted to go to Shambhala. They went to Dalai Lama. Dalai Lama sent them to Panchen Lama, who told them, you seem to be ready, and gave them a sealed note to a butcher in Lhasa. They went to that man. That man took the note, read it, and then he invited the first of them. He said, all right, you are ready to go, lie down there, pointing to a wooden board used to cutting meat. And he simply chopped the head of that person. And then he turned to the other and said, now you are the next. No? The other one was shivering and scared and just went near the wall and refused to come forward. And at that point, the butcher said, look, and showed him a vision again under his armpit of the first friend on his way to Shambhala, looking back for a glimpse of his companion. And then he said, shaking his head, because you lack sufficient faith, you cannot go to Shambhala. So the story suggests this absolute surrender and refers to this cutting of the head, which we find so often in the symbolism of the, for example, Chinnamasta is represented, one of the cosmic wisdoms, which is exactly about transcending the mind. But if we take it just with briefly in a rational kind of analysis, or trying to understand logically, we have such questions. He goes alive, that first friend, goes alive, or is going in afterlife. It's going, he died and is just leaving the body and goes to Shambhala out of a body. Does the butcher really chop off the head, or does he only create an illusion for the other in order to test the fate of the friend? Or does he actually kill and then will bring him back to life? Such kind of scenarios are appearing often in the teachings of some masters when they give teachings in the, for example, the initiations of Naropa from Tilopa. Many such transformations and things like this, miracles, are happening. But beyond all these interpretations, the story points to something much more profound, that essentially life and death are relative, and it's not about grasping life that is the essential aspect, but this longing for truth. So this sense of impermanence and this aspiration that can go even beyond any fear, abhinivesha, fear of death, being one of the reasons for, even in Patanjali, for suffering, is the essential message. Now I'm going to still start speaking about that kingdom structure. How this, I'm not going to mention where exactly the Kingdom of Shambhala is. There are many suppositions. There were expeditions then done in such areas, some of them with certain results we will see. But now we are focused more on the structure of Shambhala, as it is described in the Kala Chakra Tantra teachings. So Kala Chakra Tantra is a text that speaks, actually that is it's just Lagu Kala Chakra Tantra, the shortest Kala Chakra that we have accessible. Many of these texts, Tibetan texts, were not yet translated. In 19th century, Alexander Xoma de Köresh, one of the first Orientalists who tried to translate from Tibetan, from Kanjur and Tanjur, the main texts of Tibetan, this huge number of manuscripts like this, he started with a chapter like this: advice for the little gods, how to create a universe, how to create such a paradise. And he dropped. He realized that it's not the time. Somehow it's too far for this. But this kind of teachings were, and it makes sense if we refer not to just mental suggestion, but a radiance of the heart. And we will see that this is what Ibn Arabi would express in his, and this is how he would pray. He said he speaks about the science of visualization with the heart. And he will say, this is how I pray. I raise in that level, and that vision is the only way. No words, nothing, is just an openness to that. It's somehow like you go to sleep and then you fall asleep, like it's a dream, but it's not a dream. You are conscious. Everything flows with that naturalness, but you are completely aware, and then you are in God, or you are in Shambhala, in that fluidity, in that harmony. So the Kala Chakra Tantra describes an external ring of mountains. You have another image may be more easy to follow. So the kingdom is completely surrounded by snow mountains, making it almost unreachable. As you'll see, it's also a local spiritual realm, a level of consciousness. So the limited karma is, in this case, the main barrier. This is expressed in many ways. For example, lamas say that the peaks are perpetually hidden in mist, or they are so far that you cannot really access them. Then a great ring of snow mountains glistering with ice completely surrounds Shambhala and keeps out all those who not fit to enter. The text implies that one can cross the snow mountains only by flying over them, but this can happen only through spiritual power, so just in an astral projection, not by airplane or material means, because that will generate destruction, to say. Inside the ring of snow mountains, around the center of the kingdom runs another ring. So the interior ring of snow mountains, even much higher, and then rivers and smaller mountain ranges divide the area between the two rings into 8 regions shaped like 8 petals, so like 8 petals of a lotus. In fact, the text describes Shambhala as having the shape of an 8-petal lotus blossom, enclosed within a rosary of snow mountains. Each petal contains 12 principalities ruled by local princes. So there are 96 such places, you know, before we refer to these 96 areas. The snow mountains surrounding the center portion of the lotus blossom have turned to ice, therefore shine with a crystalline light. At the very center of the lotus flower is the inner ring. In the inner ring lies Kalapa, the capital of Shambhala. Now, then there are 2 lakes, and there is this description, but I stop a little bit and I will make a parenthesis to speak about the symbols that are related to this. So before, these are different representations. You see, some are even in the sky. This is a classical representation of the realm of Shambhala with these 8 areas. Related to symbolism, Kempo Noryang, great Lama, speaks about 3 Shambhalas corresponding to the 3 divisions of Kala Chakra teachings. The Kala Chakra teachings have 3 such divisions: is external, internal, and other, or transcending internal, external. No? So the outer Shambhala exists as a kingdom in the external world. So the outer is external world. The outer Kala Chakra refers to geography, medicine, astrology, cycles, time, even the knowledge of weather, many such science. It's very much about science. This would be the external Kala Chakra. The inner Kala Chakra, says the inner Shambhala, lies hidden in the body and mind. The inner Kala Chakra is basically yoga. So yoga, hatha yoga, with energies, moving the energies, chakras, purifying the chakras, also using visualizations and tantric means in connection with this. So purifying in this, and different tantric practices, but pointing to the body and mind. So a purification of the body and mind. The other Kala Chakra refers to the cosmos view, refers to the Kala Chakra mandala with all its deities. So a transfigured cosmos, a cosmos seen in not just in physicality, but in that sacredness. And then Shambhala is seen, this higher level of Shambhala is like seen everywhere. Shambhala, so as a, like in this bhavana, a transfiguration of all that is. So once again, it's Shambhala, an external physical realm, Shambhala reflected in the body, and Shambhala is present everywhere. The way in which the Tibetan masters are working, they emphasize very much the inner Kala Chakra and therefore the practice in the body. So a lot of symbols, they say the external is not so powerful spiritually. The other is too high for people. Therefore, the practice is very much, as it makes sense with the body, mind, and the inner reality here in the body. Now, this is something that corresponds with levels of consciousness. So these are not just realms in the body, but are levels of consciousness. We spoke a little bit when we refer to the chakras, that each chakra corresponds, and you have in module 1 confession of Ramakrishna about passing through the different valleys, as the valley of Muladhara, the valley of Svatisthana, and so on, as levels of consciousness, understanding that it's a need to pass through all of them, to rise beyond all of them. So there are realms, but there are so-called lokas, or spaces of consciousness, not just a place, not just a position, but corresponding level of consciousness. This appears in the, for example, in the cosmic form of Vishnu, or the cosmic human being. So always this correspondence, the three realms, the heaven, Satya, to Bhuvar Loka, which corresponds from head to the belly, Bhuvar being the limit of the sun, the sphere of the sun. Then the earth is Bhuloka, in the groin area. And then underworld, Atala to Patala, different like hells or limited realms. So upper realms, lower realms. Now, apart from this, and we will refer maybe a little bit more about this to this lokas later, because it's speaking about such realms, it's worth to refer to levels of consciousness. But then it's an interesting connection, and I'm going to conclude with this, and then we'll actually conclude with a short meditation with Shambhala Yantra. So we have in the Oriental tradition, apart from the 7 chakras, some chakras which are considered secret, and one of them is this Hrid chakra. In Chakra Nirupana, for example, is described in the classical text, sometimes even inside Anahata, sometimes under Anahata, but pointing to the real place where the soul, or the soul and the spirit, can be accessed. And this Hrid chakra is having 8 petals. In the middle of this is a tree that is fulfilling all the wishes. In the middle of Shambhala, the king of Shambhala have either, in descriptions, either a stone with miraculous powers, Chintamani. Chintamani means a crest jewel. The most money means jewel, like Manipura, the city of jewels. Chintamani, the highest jewel, which would confer paranormal powers and spiritual realization. This is Chintamani, and Chudamani is, it's the text of Shankaracharya, Viveka Chudamani, the crest jewel of discrimination. So there in the heart is that jewel of discrimination. And also in Kamtrun Rinpoche, for example, describes the king of the world, the king of Shambhala, as having this wish, this tree that fulfills all the wishes. No? The tree that fulfills all the wishes. It's in Shambhala and it's in Hridaya Chakra. Around, the 8 petals are connected to the 8 paranormal powers or siddhis. But before, another very beautiful correlation that can come. You know, the omnipresent mantra written on the mountains, on the stones, on the flags, repeated all the time in the Buddhist tradition is Om Mani Padme Hum, which means Om, the jewel in the lotus. Om. Yes? This mantra is named the Paramahridaya. Paramahridaya, the supreme, Parama, the supreme or the innermost heart of Avalokiteshvara, this bodhisattva of compassion. No? This mantra is repeated to generate compassion. It's a mantra of compassion. So it's considered a condensed form of all Buddhist teachings. But what is this lotus? Lotuses are all the chakras. But it is only in this Hridaya Chakra or in this place of the heart that the jewel exists, and that Chintamani, that supreme stone of the spirit exists. So basically this mantra is like a way of honoring the self, that essence, the core, in that at the external level is like honoring, you know, the realm of Shambhala, the core of Shambhala, hidden in that lotus. No? In the middle of the lotus is the jewel, no? And evoking Shambhala. And in the human being is, you know, evoking this heart chakra and the core of it, that jewel, which is the self or the essence or the ultimate Buddha nature, or that ultimate reality. Also, Samdong Rinpoche and Chobkye Trimche and Rinpoche and other lamas identify inner Shambhala with Hrid center. So it's not just a speculation that we make now, is this a classical way of referring. They point out that the highest, innermost awareness, the only one capable of knowing the true nature of reality, is hidden there. It's exactly what we are speaking about, the spiritual heart, no? And honoring that. And then Om Mani Padme Hum is exactly about honoring the jewel that is in the lotus, in the real lotus of the heart. And as another great master, Dardo Rinpoche, said about Shambhala in your heart as a practice. The text describes Shambhala in the form of an 8-petal lotus so that yogis can visualize it as a mandala in their hearts. You see? So the mandala of our hearts. We will stop here. We'll find other ways of referring to the city of 8 is a classical way of referring to the heart. We'll speak also about the paranormal powers related to these petals, which can be seen just as powers or radiances ways of expanding consciousness after the ultimate realization. Are there any questions? Sorry? A question online? Yes?
Elena Popa asked that this was when you were speaking of your experiences with Shambhala. She asked if you could share please some of the revelations in that trial.
I wrote even in the, so to repeat, if I can speak about some of those revelations that I had, even that access in itself, I felt as an important revelation. For example, one of them was meditating and bringing light in caves. It's like the winds, exactly as there are, you know, the winds through the physical body, like receive that a message that are like the winds of the earth, a way of purifying or helping the earth to transform is to meditate in caves or wherever, you know, it's like touching in a deeper way. So it's like a need to purify or to bring that energy in meditation. Ways of purifying or blessing a country, for example, or an area. And we may speak about this at a certain point. Yes. If there are no other questions, let's conclude with a short meditation with Shambhala. Just close your eyes. Bring the awareness in the heart. The longing. The aspiration. This realm of purity. Sacredness. Love and compassion. Allow your soul rise to this reality. Consecrate to God, the very essence of all being, fruits of this meditation. And now we open the eyes. We focus first in the middle of the yantra. And then when the mind calms down, we extend a few, seeing the whole yantra. Seeing with the heart through the eyes. If you want, you can repeat mentally the mantra Om Mani Padme Hum. We close the eyes. Feeling the communion with the sacred realm of Shambhala. Sense of being uplifted in love, peace, sacredness, light. This we conclude Satsang.